done properly, thoroughly, through the legal process, so that everybody knows what is going on. But I want to assure Kenyans that the Kenya Airports Authority is not up for sale. The other thing that I want to mention to Kenyans is that one of our long-term strategies is to create Nairobi as a logistical hub. And we are talking even with the United Nations offices in Nairobi, so that apart from just the new terminal that will come up, we want to create Jomo Kenyatta Airport, have part of Mombasa at the port, and have all through to Naivasha logistics hubs that meet certain standards, so that the United Nations can use this destination, Kenya, as a logistical hub for their operations. Just the way there's a logistics hub in Italy, Brindisi, by the United Nations. So these are some of the long-term objectives we have around the Jomo Kenyatta Airport, but it's not for sale. So I hope that clears the air. I want to state that the issues of the floods, they did cause a lot of damage across the board. All the 47 counties had various levels of impact. And the full cost is estimated at close to 100 billion. That is infrastructure that is damaged and so forth. People displaced, schools ruined. We have data that has been collected on this. Hospitals have been messed up and so forth, and other forms of infrastructure. But clearly, the recovery process will now take time and will be slower because of the financial situation we are facing. I do agree that we could do a lot of savings from the rental capacity, so that we don't keep on incurring heavy contractual obligations. That's a good point that we can take up. The issue of KQ, it is a delicate matter, but we have been trying very hard to bring KQ back on board, because, Mr. Chairman, the core revenue of the Kenya Airports Authority, for instance, in terms of landing fees, in terms of cargo and what have you, is largely dependent on Kenya Airways. So it is an area that we need to look at carefully. It's strategic to the economy of the country, and we need to find a way of turning it around. And I just want to remind members that it's unfortunate that Kenya Airways went to this situation again, because if you go back in history, you will find that Kenya Airways was a fully owned state parastatal that was making losses then. It was then privatized, and partners like KLM were brought on board. It then turned into a profit-making agency that was even now paying a dividend and being traded on the stock market. And then again, somewhere along the line, some other things happened, and we find ourselves where we are. But we are working towards trying to get it on some sound footing, and maybe looking at also the possibilities of a different strategic partner, so that it can continue on a trajectory of recovery. On the youth programs, I can just summarize that if you look at the issue of why we want to create aggregation industrial parks, why we want to create growth in some of these sectors, it is because we are targeting job creation. We are targeting the value chains so that jobs can be created and employment can be found for the younger people. So the holistic position is that all these measures we are putting in place, they may appear painful at this point in time, but going forward, clearly they are designed to spark growth in the economy. And the largest generator of jobs will eventually be the private sector. I may quote the housing levy and the programs that are going on, whether it is in Kibera or Mukuru and so forth. These are areas that we want to have, even in a more robust way, integrating the private sector in this initiative, so that we can create jobs for the younger people, because they need jobs, and that is what we must focus on. Finally, Mr. Chairman, so that I don't speak again, and my colleagues will finalize, is this whole area around debt, and they'll say something about Mheshimiwa's question on the long-term debt strategy. The one thing I want to make clear to all Kenyans, and I know parliamentarians know this, but perhaps we have not communicated better for the other. Whichever way we go, we will have to pay our external debt. It will not be written off. So our Kenyans, it may appear sometimes to give simplistic solutions, but there are no simplistic solutions. We will have to settle our debt. That is what makes a nation. It's been committed, it's a sovereign debt, it has been made by others who are there. Our forefathers made commitments. What is biting us, and you all know, is more of the commercial debt. The expensive debt in our portfolio is what is hitting us very hard. It's not the concessionary funds. The concessionary funds, as you know, are from the World Bank, some of our bilateral members, the SDRs around the fund. These are largely concessionary funds. It's the commercial ones that are hitting us very hard. But the reality is, they are sovereign debt. We cannot run away from it. Even if another person took over, whether it is Atandi and he became president of Kenya today, and maybe one day he will become, he will still have to deal with the public debt. It will not be written off. So people should stop moving around and giving the impression that these debts can be written off. They will not be written off. We have to pay. The lessons we learn is how do we engage in entering into debt as we go into the future. But the reality, we have to pay. And again, for those who are speaking, for you to have credibility as a nation in terms of settling your debt, in terms of being able to pitch for your country, again, I want to dispel another rumor, because it's important I speak to Kenyans with the full truth. And as they say, speaking the truth and nothing but the truth. In order for us to resolve our debt challenge, we have to have a program with the IMF. It cannot be otherwise. And if anybody continues to mislead people that you can walk away from the IMF and all this and have your way, it is not true. And I speak because at one time I was involved deeply in the rescheduling of Kenya's public debt. When I I was Minister for Finance. And you need to have the IMF on your side and the World Bank on your side for you to have a hearing from your creditors. So ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Chairman, I think I wanted that to go on record so that it's not a question of us misleading the Kenyan public. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think the Prime Cabinet Secretary has handled the matter of public debt very well. Since Honorable Mulu is my vice chair in the Debt and Privacy Committee, I'm sure we can go into the details. But yes, I agree with you. The 141 billion, which is the additional borrowing, coming as a result of failure of the finance bill to be enacted or assented to, is giving us a composition of 55, about 47% external, and majority being 57, actually being 53 being domestic. And our medium-term debt strategy, of course, has indicated how we want to profile, and we want to have 55% external and 45. But you know, the exchange dynamics have moved on, and also when I look at the what we have, what we could see as we prepare the budget on program loans and program A in A, what we expect as grants and loans, together with what we project for commercial borrowing, particularly Panda bond, Samurai bond, and sustainability